No one is evil. There is no such thing. No one is good or bad. Everyone is, at the end of the day, victim to their material circumstances. Okay? Victim to social conditioning. And they can do evil things in the process, or they can do good things in the process, but we are still responding to shapes and colors. Okay? That's it. Yes. One might even say, I want to make America great again. Except I don't think that there was any moment where America truly was living up to its standard, its potential. That is so crazy. You and Bad Empanada duked it out on his community post a little before you went live. I don't think it was a duking it out. I think it's just a difference of agreement, which is fine. We can have a difference in opinion. Chatters, it's normal and healthy to have disagreements with people who you align with on so many things. I think it's healthy. Where is it? Link me the Bad Empanada take. Where was it? Because I saw it. His community post showed up. Bad Empanada's community post showed up on my timeline, and he said, he's so fucking stupid. Look at this guy. I really respect the work he puts in for all of his videos. So I'm not gonna, I'm ribbing when I make fun of him for saying stuff like this. But I will fucking puke if I see a soundpiker say, I invite Israelis onto my broadcast all the time, or tell us how we need to empathize with and humanize Israelis who are victims of propaganda themselves again. Jewish exceptionalist, liberal, Zionist drivel. Validating the idea that we need approval from tokens among the enemy to oppose them just because they're Jewish. And painting Zionists as being misled victims rather than the reality when they're enthusiastically and willingly pursuing their own interests for material gain at the cost of Palestinians. Sickening. P.S. Make excuses for this, permabanned on site. To which I responded with, the struggle is multifaceted. Internal pressure plays a role. I will not back away from contextualizing the role militant resistance plays in emancipation, but I also won't immediately discard those who have disagreements with me on that, especially when I've relied on their investigative reporting. I've used Yuval's work at +972 in the past. It's important not to take honest reporting in the bodies that Israeli Jewish allies put forth to protect Palestinians for granted, even if we have disagreements. He apparently replied to me, no, it's not important at all to even mention or notice that someone is Israeli or Jewish in the context of Israel colonialism in the name of Jewish ethnic supremacy. If you wouldn't do it for the Nazis, you shouldn't be doing it here. If you're critique, no, I don't think he understands. I guess we're talking past one another, because that's not the point I was making at all. What the hell? The way I see it is like this. Okay? I live in a settler colonial enterprise that is also known as the United States of America. I'm an American citizen. I take advantage of the bounty of this settler colonial enterprise and the untold amount of pain that it cost, the untold amount of pain that it dished out upon the indigenous population here, and even chattel slavery. I also understand that this settler colonial enterprise, the United States of America, churns out a metric ton of propaganda to make people understand or make people feel like that is normal. That kind of violence is necessary. Okay? So if I am trying to actively talk to people in the United States of America, then I'm obviously going to explain to them that this is just programming, so I can engage in deprogramming, right? And that is the exact same way. That is the exact same way that I approach Israel and every other country. If you critiqued on the basis of not considering the perspective of Israelis and your responses, but I've literally talked to Israelis on my stream and not the perspective of Israelis on an ethno-state run by and for them means nothing, then you're pleading people to liberal Zionism. It's nauseating and brainless. That Yuval is even given a platform to spout free to hostage bullshit is travesty. He's only there because of an accident of birth, because of a token Israeli stamp of approval is required on anything that Palestinians do. If not for that, he would have never been included. Instead of challenging this by questioning it, you reinforce his continuation by pointing to it as legitimizing and special. I think that, interestingly enough, we both recognize that Israel is a supremacist state. Okay? Israel is an ethno-religious supremacist state, and therefore Israelis, in the eyes of that ethno-supremacist Israeli state, specifically Israeli Jews, are definitely treated by this state as a higher priority. We both recognize that. And I say it's important that the emancipatory struggle is multifaceted, multi-pronged, and that it's important when Israelis put their bodies on the line as well. Okay? Because ultimately, even if someone is, look, the way I see it is this, okay? I can disagree with someone who is, constantly talking about how devastating October 7 was. Like Bernie Sanders is a great example of this. Like I disagree with Bernie Sanders in the way that he has approached the issue of Israel, right? But he has so much more work that he has done that I think was incredibly important, and I will always give him props for that, right? This argument is so silly. Yes, if there were German civilian resistors during World War II, that would be a good thing. In Israel, we also have a few people like Ofer Kassif, Yuval Abraham, Gideon Levy, who are resistance and is good. Exactly. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate to paint every Israeli with the same brush. But also, I take it one step further. Like I've said, there are 100% plenty of Israelis who think what is going on in the West Bank is unconscionable to a degree where they will literally go out and stand in front of the settlers. Okay. If you're doing that, I'm never going to shit on you. If you're doing that, then that's good. Okay. That's a good thing. I think, given my Turkish background, and also my American background as well, have an understanding of what it's like to constantly be cast aside by your own peers. Having said that, that is nothing in terms of the violence and ritualistic humiliation that Palestinians are subjected to by a rabid settler colonial genocidal apartheid state that is doing terror on a daily basis. You do not need to cede ground to bad faith actors, but you can understand that there are so many different approaches that people engage with. And in terms of the No Other Land, this is actually something I was going to talk about right now because it dovetails perfectly into the Israeli-Palestinian documentary No Other Land wins the Oscar. So let's start there, and then we'll get to Trump's tariffs, we'll get to the American economy, and we'll get to what Donald Trump is going to be saying later. There's a lot going on in the world, and we must cover it all, of course. You are covering the news from an American progressive perspective. He's more extreme in his views because he's covering the news from the perspective of a dude who's living in a third world country. He's intransigent. Having said that, it ultimately, it is, at the end of the day, there are multiple perspectives in any conflict, in any involvement. For the MLKs of the world, there was always the Malcolm X's of the world, and the civil rights struggle would not have been successful without both of these parties. Nonviolent political resistance is incredibly important. When it comes to the apartheid state, it's the exact same thing. Whether it be South Africa or whether it be Israel, you are going to have internal pressure that plays a very significant role, okay? And those guys are not going to be like-minded, okay? They're not going to agree on everything because there's a metric ton of social conditioning that plays a role here. And I will continue advocating for the things that I believe in, even if those people consider me to be a terrorist, even if those people consider me to be lesser than them because of my background, okay? And plenty of them do. A lot of people shut me out of this conversation. So brave of you to paint yourself as MLK in this comparison. What led you to believe that I was doing that? Okay? I'm not putting myself in this equation at all. I'm simply saying that as someone who is an onlooker, okay, as someone who is looking from the outside, who is trying to actively educate people on these matters, I'm saying that I would be someone who says, look, the Black Panther militancy is valid and plays a formative role in the civil rights struggle, just like MLK's peaceful civil disobedience played a very formative role in the civil rights struggle. It's not one or the other. It's both. Okay? That's how this works. At least throughout history, that is how it has always worked. Especially when Like militancy is virtually militancy and wars of attrition are unimaginably taxing on the civilian population, right? And when you are going up against an opponent, when you're going up against an opponent that is backed by the largest state on the planet, the largest military on the planet, it's going to take a lot more than simply militant struggle, militant emancipatory movements. It's just not going to work that way. That's just not how it goes. But let's get to No Other Land, the boys, okay? The boys that won an Oscar.
Oscar goes to No Other Land. This is the first Oscar and
Okay, but people say, where's the Nelson Mandela or the peace guy for Gaza? The answer is that he's dead or shot by Israeli missile. What to do? No, there is first of all, Nelson Mandela is not the peace guy for South Africa. He was literally in jail and refused to denounce violence as a formative part of his emancipatory struggle. And his jail sentence was extended time and time again for that. So Nelson Mandela was on the terrorist watch list, the American terrorist watch list, until 2008, okay, far after he had actually been released from prison and became the leader of South Africa. So that's number one. And he has always stood up and actively talked about the formative role that militancy plays in resistance, and defended it, and literally has stayed in prison, extended his prison stay for that reason, for his defense of that. And the other argument is that it's Marwan Barghouti, which Hamas, even though they are supposed to be at odds with Marwan Barghouti, want Marwan Barghouti to be released from Israeli prison. So they're the Palestinian emancipatory movement, the Palestinian resistance, is united on bringing about an end to this occupation for understandable reasons. That is what their goal is. Okay.
Nomination for Basel Adra, Rachel Shore, Hamdan Bilal, and
Hamdan Bilal.
Abraham.
Thank you to the Academy for the award.
Also, I'm very stoked and I'm very proud of you guys. This community raised $130,000. This community raised $131,000 for No Other Land Rebuilding Alliance fundraiser. We raised $100K when we had we raised $100,000 just while these guys were on the stream, you know? Amazing. Fantastic. I love this community. That is why at the end of the day, no matter what people say, no matter what, like, oh, you're a terrorist, this or that, you're a bad person, this or that, none of that matters. Okay? None of that matters. We go ban for ban. All of these vice signalers out there who try to fucking smear me and smear you as well, they got nothing. They got no motion. They have horrible, sad, pathetic lives. And all they do is try to actively take down a community that is doing good. They hate that we do good here, and that's why they just try to smear to the best of their ability, okay? I saw some Palestinians on TikTok saying the speech was really bad and kind of aligning with Israel, especially the October 7 comments. Yes, I know. I'm going to get to it. Hold on. I have some controversial takes that is going to make nobody happy.
It's such a big honor for the four of us and everybody supported us for this documentary. About 2 months ago, I became a father, and my hope to my daughter that she will not have to live the same life I'm living now, always fearing settlers' violence, home demolitions, and forest spill displacements that my community, Masafir Yatta, is living and facing every day under the Israeli occupation. No other land reflect the harsh reality that we have been enduring for decades and still persist as we call on the world to take serious actions to stop the injustice and to stop the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people.
So make no mistake. So this is Yuval Abraham, okay? He was supposed to come on the broadcast as well, but he was traveling on the day that I had Basil and Hamdan on. So unfortunately, he couldn't make it. I've asked Noah to hit up the 972 people to get Yuval on as well. I'm working on, if he's still in Los Angeles, because he's, probably very busy, considering he just won a fucking Oscar. But I'm going to try to see if I can get him on as well. I've relied on his work in the past. I think he's a great investigative reporter. I don't fully agree with everything, and I don't agree with the framing that he engages with here, but it doesn't matter, okay? Because ultimately, he plays a very important role in this. Now, the reason why I think he plays a very important role in this is because I'm not so silly to think that this documentary would have ever been produced or ever even, gotten out and gotten this much public appraisal or, even though there are still obviously very serious setbacks, it was the highest grossing documentary in 2024, and yet it still has not gotten a U.S. distributor, which is crazy, right? Unprecedented. And that shows you that there are still so many hurdles to overcome in terms of getting the word out, right? But this documentary in and of itself would not get to this, would never get this level of attention if it was not attached to an Israeli, okay? That is the reality. That is the sad reality, okay? If you don't recognize that, I don't know what to tell you. There is no way. It just would not happen. Because, unfortunately, the way that Palestinians are treated by the Western world is like they are not real human beings, okay? They are actively dehumanized by those in positions of power. Okay? But because of that reason, I think it's important that there are people within Israel, within the ethno-supremacist state, that do put their names out there and their bodies out there alongside Palestinians to help give a voice to this struggle. I think this is ultimately a good thing. I hate this framing that Israelis are intertwined with Palestinians. They're settlers and they need to face this reality instead of whitewashing the position of privilege he holds. Very narcissistic stuff.
we made this film, Palestinians and Israelis, because together our voices are stronger. We see each other. The atrocious destruction of Gaza and its people, which must end. The Israeli hostages brutally taken in the crime of October 7th, which must be freed. When I look at Basil, I see my brother, but we are unequal. We live in a regime where I am free under civilian law, and Basil is under military laws that destroy his life and he cannot control. There is a different path, a political solution without ethnic supremacy, with national rights for both of our people. And I have to say, as I am here, the foreign policy in this country is helping to block this path. And, why? Can't you see that we are intertwined? That my people can be truly safe if Basil's people are truly free and safe. There is another way.
So people got very upset at this. Right? They were like, what do you mean? My people are only safe. Like, factoring Israeli security concerns into this conversation about, apartheid and genocide is inappropriate, was the initial reaction. But I think what Yuval is saying there, okay, and I don't fully agree with him because I know he's like said, I mean, he has said a bunch of things about October 7th in the past as well, but I think everybody received this in the way that they wanted to. Like, some people really liked it because this gives them permission to feel good. This gives white liberals permission to feel good, right? But yeah, what he's saying basically is, yeah, nobody is free until everybody is free. Okay? Having said that, however, this is, of course, not the end all be all, okay? He's not going to, I don't think Yuval is ever going to come out and be like, you know, Hamas is bullets are guided by Allah. They are doing a moral thing or whatever. He's not going to say that. Okay, it's ridiculous. The expectation here is that he is not speaking to the Palestinians in general. He's not speaking to those who understand the dynamic very well. He's speaking to those who don't understand this dynamic at all. That's the entire purpose of this fucking documentary. So when he says, like, we will never be free until Palestinians are free, you can either interpret that as, well, Israel has security concerns and he just only cares about the Israeli security concerns, or you can interpret it as no one is free until everyone is free, and that, you know, I mean, I think he should have just said this, there should be an end to this occupation. Like that would have wrapped it up much nicer, I think. You know? This is like what you say when trans black shadows get mad at you and talking about them. He's not talking to you. His job is to be the bridge to the Western Israeli audience, and that's what he's doing. Using your privilege for good is a good thing, and all the hate Yuval's getting is unwarranted. Be mad that Palestinians need Israelis to help them tell stories. Don't be mad at the Israeli guys doing the job he should be doing. Yeah, I don't think that this is a bad thing at all. I think this is a good thing. He clearly doesn't want the occupation to end. I don't think that that's the case. I don't know.
It's not too late for life, for the living. There is no other way. Thank you.
Like, even his invocation of October 7, I think, can be interpreted within the context of like, October 7 happened because of the occupation. Yeah, there's a crime for undermining the crimes of October 7, classic fascist shit. He just can't, and it's okay for now. Like, I think that this documentary winning an Oscar is a good thing. Okay? I will stand by that. Because this documentary winning an Oscar is like, I don't think people understand what the issue of Palestine was like, especially in circles like fucking Hollywood. Okay? Like, I know that a lot of you got really woke on this post October 7, and you have these opinions, right? And you have these strong opinions, and that's understandable because you've seen incredible amounts of cruelty. Like, you've seen a direct genocide in real time take place. And that's like mind-boggling that other people don't see the reality that you see. But as someone who is 33 fucking years old, I'm telling you, when I explain to you that as someone who has seen this play out in the Western world for the past 10 years, as someone who has been outspoken about Palestinian liberation, I cannot comprehend how we even got to this point. Hollywood is the number one foreign policy defenders, okay? Hollywood loves the State Department. They booed Michael Moore. They booed him off stage, famously. And Michael Moore is like a social democrat who's like, maybe we shouldn't be so violent. Like, that's all he said. And they were like, boo, yeah, kill yourself. You know? Yeah. 5 Broken Cameras is the last Palestinian doc that was nominated. It lost in 2013 to Searching for Sugar Man, and the director was detained on entry into the U.S. Like, I cannot comprehend how far this movement has gotten in terms of especially like broad public appeal, but even institutional recognition. Okay? I am never going to disparage that. I'm never going to disparage that, because everything that I do, everything that I advocate for, I advocate while also taking a serious look at the material realities. I also advocate, or everything that I advocate for, I obviously factor in public, collective consciousness on these issues. Okay? It's a massive, massive, and very significant moment. And yes, the sad reality of it is that this would have never happened if it was not attached to an Israeli investigative reporter. Okay? And even if I have my disagreements with some of the things that Yuval has said apparently on his Twitter and whatnot, it still doesn't matter. 972 Magazine and Local Call are fantastic investigative reporters inside of Israel. And if you are serious about covering the many different crimes that the Israeli state engages in, Okay? You need guys like him. That's it. You don't have to agree with everything that they say. You don't have to agree with their entire worldview, but they're doing an incredibly important job. Okay? In the face of untold amounts of cruelty that the Palestinians are subjected to, yes, they're using their position of privilege. Okay? And they're like, Yuval can go anywhere he wants. He can go anywhere in the United States of America. He can go anywhere he wants in the West Bank. His freedom of travel is not restricted in the same way that Basil and Hamdan's freedom of travel is restricted. Okay? Their families are constantly under threat. You should remind Chad that Basil's village also was reported on by Shireen Abu Akleh, bringing attention to the plight of Palestinians is a net good. Yeah. Shireen Abu Akleh reporting from the village featured in No Other Land. Sadly, just as the occupation forces killed the residents of the village, they eventually killed her too. Yeah. Just as I will not stand down whenever people tell me that I am pro-terrorism, that I'm an Islamist fundamentalist who loves Hamas or whatever, just as I will not stand down from helping Americans, the Western audiences, understand how violent militant resistance occurs when a population is subjected to untold amounts of cruelty and violence themselves, and how that violence and the standard of that violence is set by the occupying entity, the more powerful force, the Israeli state in this process. And a reaction to that violence is always going to try to match the level of violence that Israel is subjecting the Palestinians to. Just like I will not back away from that commentary, I am not going to immediately cast aside people who might not agree with me every step of the way. Okay? That's it. That's it. That's how it goes. My job and the role I see myself playing in the issues that I speak on is to actively bring more allies, is to actively convince more people to have an empathetic approach to those who are struggling. And a part of that, a big part of that, revolves around understanding that most people are victim to social conditioning. Okay? Social conditioning plays a major role in their lives and the way that they approach the world. And it's no different whether you live in Israel and you take for granted everything that the Israeli state has told you, everything that Israeli education has taught you, or if you live in the United States of America and you learn that, you know, our founding fathers were good guys ultimately, but, you know, maybe some of them hunt slaves. It's not a big deal, whatever, you know. Maybe there was a little bit of genocide, or that America does a lot of violence, but it's actually ultimately at the behest of a greater good, right? I understand that if that is so many people's starting position, that I have to work to actively deprogram these people, and I can't do that by constantly yelling at them and saying that they're bad or problematic or evil, okay? No one is evil. There is no such thing. No one is good or bad. Everyone is, at the end of the day, victim to their material circumstances, okay? Victim to social conditioning. And they can do evil things in the process, or they can do good things in the process, but we are still responding to shapes and colors, okay? That's it. Peter Beinart says, this is what must scare AIPAC and its allies. They are winning politically but losing culturally. Their attack ads can't stop Blue America's shift in collective consciousness on the question of Palestinian freedom. If politics really is downstream from culture, they're in trouble. Okay? Here's completely unhinged piece on the leading Israeli site, Channel 12's Mako, claims that Yuval Avraham spoke in such an offensive manner about the state of Israel without understanding the consequence of the damage he causes, but that his body language shows he was lying. Analysis of body language leads to the hypothesis that there are strong interests driving Abraham's behavior. These guys in Israel cannot even comprehend how someone can see the Israeli state as ultimately doing a lot of evil, okay? They can't even comprehend it. They think like, oh, we must bring in a behavioral analysis. Analysis of body language leads to the hypothesis that there are strong interests driving Abraham's behavior. He wanted to say terror babies, but he stopped himself. Yes. He is being mind controlled by a puppet. It seems the puppet is Hamas and Iran. He must have been given the drug that Hamas has that makes you dap. Ultimately, all I'm saying is I would be a unimaginable hypocrite if I were to speak out against those who are like Ofer Kasif or Tal or numerous other anti-Zionist Israelis as someone who is an anti-imperialist American. Okay? The fuck? I live in America. I like America. I want America to reach its potential. I want America to take advantage of its bounty, its endless bounty, and actually do good for the world. Okay? That's why I endlessly critique it. It's ridiculous. I think a lot of people get washed away in all of the Hasan says America bad all the time nonsense. Okay? Silly. Yes. One might even say, I want to make America great again. Except I don't think that there was any moment where America truly was living up to its standard, its potential. God damn, dude. Holy shit.